At nearly 4 miles below the surface, the USS Johnston lies deeper than any warship ever found, her guns still aimed at the enemy she refused to yield to. In 1944, she was the smallest destroyer at the Battle of Samar, led by Commander Ernest Evans, who vowed to fight against overwhelming odds. But how did a ship this fearless end up lost for 75 years? And what secrets waited in the darkness all that time? USS Johnston was born in the shipyards of Seattle, laid down in May 1942, and launched less than a year later. She belonged to the Fletcher-class, a new breed of destroyer, longer and sturdier than those that came before. At over 2,100 tons and nearly 376 feet from bow to stern, Johnston could take on more guns, more radar, and more men, all without losing her balance in heavy seas. The Navy called her DD-557, but among her crew, she was known as GQ Johnny, always ready for action, always on alert. At the heart of the ship stood Lieutenant Commander Ernest E. Evans. Born in Oklahoma to Cherokee and Creek parents, Evans carried the pride of his heritage and the lessons of hardship into every command. When he took charge of Johnston on October 27, 1943, he gathered his crew and made a promise. "This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way, and anyone who doesn't want to go along had better get off right now." No one left. The men of Johnston knew their skipper was different. Evans drilled them hard, expected more, and believed in them completely. He led from the front, whether it meant standing exposed on the bridge or taking the first risk in battle. Under Evans, the ship's spirit ran high. Sailors talked about his unshakable nerve and the fierce loyalty he inspired. In every drill, every patrol, and every moment at sea, the message was clear. Johnston would never back down from a fight, no matter the odds. That resolve would soon be tested in ways none of them could imagine. Before dawn on October 25, 1944, the waters off Samar seemed deceptively calm. But just beyond the horizon, the Japanese center force advanced with silent purpose. 4 battleships, including Yamato, the largest ever built, steamed at the head of a line that stretched for miles. 7 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and at least 11 destroyers followed, their guns ready, their orders clear. Break through to Leyte Gulf and smash the American landing force. Facing them was a small American group known as Taffy 3. 6 escort carriers, 3 destroyers, and 4 destroyer escorts stood between Kurita's armada and the vulnerable transports clustered around Leyte. The carriers were slow and lightly armored, built for support, not for slugging it out with battleships. Their destroyer screen, including Johnston, was designed to fend off submarines and planes, not to face the full might of the Imperial Navy's last great fleet. As the sun rose, lookouts on the carriers spotted the pagoda masts of the Japanese ships cutting through the morning mist. Radio warnings crackled through the air, but help was far away. Admiral Halsey's fast battleships had been drawn north overnight, chasing a decoy force. Now, Taffy 3 was alone, outnumbered and outgunned, with nothing but courage and a few thin lines of steel between the enemy and the beachhead. Every man aboard Johnston knew what was coming. The odds were impossible, but retreat was not an option. Evans didn't hesitate. He ordered the Johnston to turn hard toward the enemy, engines roaring to flank speed. The crew sprang into action, laying a thick smokescreen across the water. 2,500 yards of swirling cover to shield the slow escort carriers behind them. Black plumes rolled out from the stern, hiding the American ships from the Japanese gunners. But the Johnston didn't stay hidden. Evans pushed his ship through the smoke, zigzagging between geysers of water as shells crashed down around them. Every lookout and gun crew was at their post, hands steady, eyes fixed on the distant silhouettes of battleships and cruisers. Evans' plan was bold. Close the distance, launch a torpedo attack and draw fire away from the carriers. The gunnery officer shouted orders as the destroyer's 5-inch guns opened up. Johnston was the first ship in Taffy 3 to fire, sending shells arcing toward the nearest Japanese cruiser. The deck shook with every salvo, the air thick with cordite and adrenaline. Down in the torpedo room, sailors readied all 10 Mark 15 torpedoes. At a range of about 7,000 yards, Evans gave the order, "Fire," and the Johnston unleashed her entire spread, aimed straight at the lead cruiser, Kumano. Moments later, a plume of water erupted as at least one torpedo struck home, blowing off Kumano's bow and forcing her out of line. The Japanese guns shifted, zeroing in on the lone American destroyer. But the Johnston kept moving, weaving through the chaos, guns blazing, smoke curling in her wake. The crew worked as one, every hand needed, every second counting. The attack had begun, and there was no turning back. Shells tore through Johnston's hull, knocking out power and communications in a matter of minutes. The bridge was hit, scattering fragments across the deck and wounding Commander Evans, but he refused to leave his post. With the main battery director gone, gun crews switched to local control, firing as fast as their hands could load and aim. Fires raged below decks, smoke pouring through hatches as the destroyer shuddered from repeated hits. Flooding crept forward, slowing the ship to a crawl, then leaving her dead in the water. Still, the crew kept fighting. One last torpedo loaded, one last shell fired. As Japanese salvos closed in from every side, Evans moved aft, shouting orders through the chaos. With steering lost, he directed the rudder by hand, guiding Johnston's final maneuvers. The deck was slick with seawater and oil. Men scrambled to help the wounded, carrying them topside as the list grew sharper. Evans gave the order to abandon ship, his voice steady, his eyes searching the faces of his men. He made sure as many as possible escaped, refusing to leave until the last moment. Survivors later recalled seeing their captain on the fantail, still urging them over the side. Johnston slipped beneath the waves just after 10 a.m., taking 186 of her crew with her. Only 141 survived, clinging to rafts and wreckage in the open sea. For his leadership and sacrifice, Evans would be awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. The citation praised his fearless command and devotion to duty, a legacy written in the silence that followed Johnston's final stand. For 75 years, the USS Johnston remained beyond human reach, hidden in a world of perpetual darkness, nearly 4 miles beneath the Philippine Sea. At 21,180 feet down, the pressure is crushing, over 900 times what we feel at the surface. No diver could survive it, and for decades even the most advanced submersibles could go no deeper than a fraction of that distance. Early search attempts relied on survivor memories and rough wartime maps, but the technology simply was not there. Sonar scans and remote vehicles swept wide swaths of ocean, always coming up empty. The abyss kept its secret, untouched by light or time, while families and historians waited, never knowing if the ship would ever be found. Only with the arrival of a new era in deep-sea exploration would the silence finally be broken. Victor Vescovo, a former Navy commander and deep-sea explorer, set out in 2021 to solve the mystery that had lingered for generations. His team brought the limiting factor, the only submersible certified to reach the very bottom of the ocean. Using advanced sonar and bathymetric mapping from their support ship, they scanned the abyss for any sign of the lost destroyer. After days of careful searching, the outline of a Fletcher-class hull appeared on their screens, far deeper than any warship had ever been found. When the limiting factor reached the wreck, it revealed a haunting sight. The guns of USS Johnston still aimed toward the direction of the enemy, the hull scarred, but largely intact. No artifacts were disturbed, and the exact coordinates remained secret, honoring the site as a war grave. The team documented every detail, ensuring that the ship's final stance and sacrifice would be preserved for history, untouched and undisturbed at 21,180 feet below the surface. At 21,180 feet below the Philippine Sea, the wreck of the USS Johnston DD-557 stands as the deepest shipwreck ever documented, confirmed by Victor Vescovo's 2021 expedition. The discovery verified survivor accounts. The destroyer's guns still point toward the last enemy they faced. Records confirm 186 crew were lost and 141 survived, while Commander Ernest E. Evans was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his leadership on October 25, 1944. Some details about the final moments and damage sequence remain unclear, as not all wartime logs and Japanese accounts have been released or located. Yet the evidence proves Johnston's crew faced overwhelming odds and refused to retreat, safeguarding their task group at Samar. Today, the ship's resting place is a protected war grave and a technological milestone in deep-sea exploration. The legacy of the Johnston endures as a documented fact of courage and sacrifice beneath the waves.